with the control. So here we have 8 tons of biochar mixed with 24 tons of compost. And here we have 1 row, 2 row, 3 row, 4 row biochar, and the 5th is the control. And you can see.
You can already see. Yeah. The average rows.
In Masmoutou, but it's a bit more tiny this time.
But even just after 2 months of growth, we can see maybe 30% differences in growth on the cane growth. So it's just really impacting actually.
By average, we have 10 centimeters more of growth on the biochar modalities than on the control systems.
After 2 months plantation, which is quite unusual.
And what have you found? Have you found that you've had to use a little bit more than many other people use? Is there a dose effect with biochar?
There is a dose effect. We've seen that 2 and 3 years ago on another experiment we conducted on another part of the department. And so we've seen a difference with 2 tons of biochar mixed with 6 tons of compost versus 4 tons of biochar mixed with 12 tons of compost. We've seen a very good difference. So here what we decided is to do the same comparison, but this time 4 tons and 12 tons of compost versus 8 tons of biochar with 24 tons of compost.
And how do you think the biochar is working?
Retention of water into the soil, but not only. I think it has an impact on the whole, let's say, ecosystem of the soil. Not only the physical aspect of retention, but either chemical with pH adjustation, would you say that, and microbiological activities.
And maybe what is interesting to say is Roussillon is a kind of open air laboratory. We don't get much water the last 3 years. So what we need to have a good regenerative soil is to have a little bit of life in the soil. And having a biochar inside the soil makes the soil a little bit more humid, making more habitat for the fungus, for the bacteria, and maybe making the soil more alive than having a very dry soil.
We do believe biochar is helping us to regenerate the soil.
So one of the things that regenerative viticulture seems to encourage is growing things in the row and even in the vine row, having roots in the ground. Have you been working on looking to see how you can do this in an arid climate? Because at some stage, presumably, the competition from other things growing here when there's regular rainfall can affect the vines.
Exactly, so we cannot see it because it's a plantation of the year, so we removed the cover. But on another part, in another vines in Mas Miraflores, we are conducting an experiment where we have the same cover crops, so the same time, and we are experimenting 2 different ways of managing this cover crop following very specific indicators on the soil, plant and atmosphere compartment.
Anyway, what we really changed in the last few years is in the past we were used to move a little bit the soil, doing it tillage. We completely stopped, and from I will say from August to May we don't touch anymore the soil. So we let the activity going. What we try to do is following the data, following the climate, following the rain. We decide to take out the crop completely, 50% of 100%, because of the competition we can get from May to August. I will say from May to all the growing season.
So it's very exciting to see this. And I also, you mentioned earlier that you've been working with resistant varieties as well that are well suited to the climate around here. How far are you of that sort of progress?
So it's been 3 years now that we planted our 2 first resistant variety of bouquet program. One called 3176, which is a son of Grenache, which makes sense in the context of Roussillon, and another one, the G9, that is Muscat, a parent of Muscat, and that has another good interest for us is that it's low in alcohol.
Actually, it has 2 interests. It's very low in alcohol and it's very high in glutathione. Glutathione is a molecule will protect very much of the oxidation. So being in a very hot place, where the picking conditions can be very difficult with very high temperature. Having more glutathione condition makes the wine less able to get oxidized, which is also quite a good key. And having also the possibility, not having such degrees, maybe able to pick around 10% volume, 10.5% volume alcohol, maintain also very well the acidity. So we'll have better pH, better TA, good freshness, and the very nice glutathione, which maybe last year for the first few bottles we made, we've seen that we don't need to protect much of the oxidation. It's just protecting it by itself, which is quite relevant for this place.
So at the end you can have a product with very low treatment at the vine, no inputs, and no inputs in the winemaking system. So it's very...
And maybe a wine, maybe a little bit more trendy, as you know, in the UK, but also in most of the countries today, export countries for us, the alcohol is very sensitive. So taxes, but also hygienic problem with the alcohol. So it's quite also interesting to go and to search with some varietal which can be a bit more in trend with the time we are living in.
And this year will be the third year, so first vintage was last year, but second leaf vintage, this one will be the very good test.
Fantastic, thank you so much.